Alright, so as promised, a robotic cooking kettle. This is the cooking kettle that I used to use to make wine, and it has a little dial on it here, and inside this dial there is a strip of metal that will break the circuit once it gets to a certain temperature. So turning this dial will adjust that little metal strip inside, and you can kind of set a temperature, but it's not very accurate. You can't set it to one single temperature and expect it to regulate it with any degree of accuracy. So when I was trying to heat wine to 150 degrees for 20 minutes, I would have to stand there and turn the dial back and forth to make sure that the temperature was on target. So I had to use a little analog mechanical temperature gauge and check the temperature and turn the dial, and it was kind of annoying. So I decided to do what anyone would do in this situation and build a robotic cooking kettle. Just makes sense. So here's the setup so you can see it, and try to follow along if you can. I doubt you'll be able to if you don't know anything about how electronics work. But this, of course, is a standard outlet, which is going to be 120 volts AC voltage. And then I have this transformer here, which I'll plug into the wall, and this will knock down the voltage from 120 volts to 12 volts AC. And that connects to this board here, which has a bridge rectifier, which will convert the voltage into 12 volts DC voltage, which is direct current, and that's connected to a capacitor, which will smooth out the voltage. And then finally there's a voltage regulator, which will bring it down to basically a straight clean 12 volt voltage. And that is connected to this board here, which eventually connects to this relay. And this relay is what's going to turn this kettle on and off. The relay has an electromagnet inside of it that when you turn on the electromagnet, it will connect to this kettle here and turn it on. But to turn on the relay, you have to sync this transistor, so that's connected to this microcontroller, and the microcontroller is going to use that transistor to turn the relay on and off, which will turn the kettle on and off depending on what temperature it's at. And the microcontroller knows what the temperature inside the kettle is because it has connected to it this little temperature probe, which is a thermistor, and it's in the water there and it's reading the temperature. And I'll show you on the computer here that it is reading the temperature that's inside the kettle, and it outputs the temperature about once every second. So the microcontroller here is reading the temperature inside the kettle, and it's going to turn the kettle on and off at whatever temperature I decide on. In this case, it's 150 degrees because that's what I want my wine to be heated at. So I'll plug it in and we'll see how well it works. And the relay is going to click on right away because it's well below 150 degrees. We'll see what it actually is at right now with this thermometer. And it looks like it's at about 130 or so. So that little red tick mark there is the target that we're going for. That'll be 150, since you can't really read the gauge on the video. But you can see that that light is on, so it is heating the kettle right now. And once that light switches off, we'll read it again and see if it got the right temperature. Alright, so the light just clicked off. So we'll take a reading here and see where it's at. Okay, got some glare here. And looks like it's at almost exactly 150. Maybe off by like 1 degree. So now it's off and it's cooling, and when it drops below 150, it'll turn the kettle back on again. It's still at 150. There it goes. And turns it off right away because it's basically right on target. Perfectly at 150 degrees. Yeah, so now all I have to do is program it to regulate the temperature for 20 minutes, because that's how long I need to be heated at 150 degrees. I'll just write the program so once it hits 150 degrees, it regulates it for 20 minutes and then turns the kettle off. And then I don't have to regulate the temperature myself anymore. I just press a button and it'll do it all itself. So there you go. Robotic cooking kettle.